Yes, sir. You're damn right. It is a Wednesday, which means it's time for another recruiting hour. Our man Jeff Ketchum is resting up today. He's trying to get to feeling better. He found out today he's got the flu. So
no COVID. No
no
COVID.
COVID. So volleyball clap for no COVID.
Although, like I said, when I had COVID, I've only had the flu once in my life, Chad. And it was the 1 year I got the flu shot. I'm not kidding. I never get the flu shot. 1 year I got the flu. Go figure. I was in Vegas, flew home with like 102-degree fever. It was the worst experience of my life, maybe. But the flu kicked my butt way worse than COVID did. So feel better, Catch. He's got the flu, and believe me, I know how bad that can be.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it is the case. Whatever you may be dealing with today, if you're sick, we hope you're getting better. Hopefully, Catch is doing that. Hopefully, he'll be able to be back next Monday on the Recruiting Hour. That, of course, is Jason Sukamel, managing editor of Orange Bloods. He's been on the Recruiting Hour plenty because nobody knows recruiting better than he does. So we wanted to get all that good information. I'm Chad Hastings. Hopefully, I'll set him up for all the stuff you want. We were talking the other day, Jason, about guys, commits, and recruits that get to visit practice. We're going to hit some of those, but we thought you threw me the name of a big time guy, both literally and figuratively. He is a commit to Texas. This is Brandon Brown we're going to start talking about today. To start off with, big offensive lineman out of the state of Florida. What do we need to know about Brandon today?
Well, Brandon was in Houston as part of it's a 5-on-5 team, not 7-on-7. It's a little different. It's offensive lineman, defensive lineman. And it's a group out of California. Okay. He plays with how these things sometimes work out with 7-on-7. I never understand how some guys get on some teams, because you'll have guys from all over the country playing on like Fast's Houston team. And it's craziness. But so Brandon and his team were in Houston. They came up to Austin on Friday. The whole team did a tour of Texas, met with the coaches. Obviously, Brandon got a lot of personalized attention. And then on Saturday, actually, Chad, they went to Texas A&M. So they did tour Texas A&M as well. I asked him, I said, hey, you got any more visits coming up? And Brandon doesn't do a lot of like one-on-one visits. He hasn't done many of those. He's going to take some official visits coming up that we can talk about. But he said, hey, we'll be in like playing another tournament in the Dallas area. I don't know when, but he said at that point they might go visit like TCU and maybe SMU, some of the schools in the Dallas area. But I did talk to Brandon last night, and I said, hey, dude, that was his first time to ever visit Texas, which is pretty rare and unique to be committed, right? And he'd never visited Austin or UT before. So said it was a great visit overall. We can dig in a little more on that. But yeah, great visits. Big for Texas to get them on campus and just kind of get some time with those coaches. Meet Kenny Baker for the first time, the new Texas defensive line coach. So productive visit, it sounds like, for Texas with Brandon Brown.
Yeah, interesting. A commitment without having come to Austin and without meeting the new defensive line coach. Yeah. He's been committed since December, if I'm seeing the calendar correctly.
Yep. He committed on it was like the first day of like the signing window, the 3-day window signing period. And very much unexpected. And I love Brandon, dude, but it was terrible timing because everybody was talking about last year's guys that were signing, and they're like, oh, by the way, this dude just committed. So yeah, the timing was certainly interesting of that commitment.
Well, and speaking of timing, like I was going back through some things on Brandon, and I think he's also one of those guys, like somewhere around the verbal commitment happens in December, but then obviously like the Bo Davis story affects the way people were thinking about certain guys. I know we were talking about Brandon in terms of, well, what does that mean, for a guy like Brandon Brown? And I know there was talk of people were looking at what was on his social media, what wasn't on his social media, and all that type of stuff. So let's start with the basics of, in your discussions with him, when you got around to the, how strong is the commitment and what other serious visits, like what's your feeling on him right now, if you had to think, future cast wise and all that?
Well, I'll tell you what, my feelings are a lot stronger towards him, his commitments being strong than they were previous, for sure. Because I've said before, like I would have considered him a soft commitment at best. I said, for all intents and purposes, I'm not even sure I would consider him a commitment. Okay, going into this visit last week, and he's already visited USC. He's got, let me make sure I get this right. He's got official visits scheduled. He didn't have all the dates for these, but he's got Tennessee, Florida, Southern Cal, and Texas. So he's going to take other official visits, right? So still he's a soft commitment. Okay, let's just call it what it is. But the quote, the money quote that he gave me, I just said, hey, dude, after coming up to Texas, getting to Austin, meeting with the coaches, I said, did that solidify things a little bit for you? I mean, where do things stand now? And his quote was, I'm glad I stayed committed to them. Okay. So he does still like Texas a lot. Texas is still going to have to work for him. And that's kind of always the case when you get early commitments from out of state guys. We've talked about it with KJ Lacy, okay, in particular. But out of state guys, you always have to recruit them as if they're uncommitted. I remember a college coach telling me that one time, and it's pretty true. But certainly for Brandon Brown, they're going to have to continue to recruit him aggressively. Get him back on campus for that official visit. Who knows? Maybe a game in the fall. But I do think I would label him as a soft commitment coming out of this weekend. And I will say, Chad, I said, hey, you visited A&M with your team. I said, do we want to talk about that? Is that really a school that's even going to be in consideration? If not, we don't have to talk about it. He goes, yeah, I might look at A&M a little bit. So, I wouldn't totally discount the Aggies in this race, although I don't know how serious he is about A&M just yet. But, I think this visit helped. I would label him as a soft commitment. Weirdly, though, that's probably better than what he was before that visit on Friday. So still a lot of work to be done by Texas, but he's kept his name on the commitment list. And I'll be honest, like not many kids would have done that. Okay, your position coach leaves, you've never visited the campus, right? That tells me he committed to Texas primarily because of his relationship with Bo Davis, or largely because of his relationship with Bo Davis. The fact that he didn't just all of a sudden be like, I'm decommitting. I'm going to open things back up. He kind of said, okay, I'm going to kind of see how this shakes out and see who they hire, see what happens. And he did it, and he's staying committed. But, it's a soft commitment that the coaches are going to continue to have to recruit aggressively.
Good to see a lot of folks in the chat already. And yes, Blake, Brandon Brown update. Exactly. That's right where we're starting. So Blake's got his eyeballs peeled for this one. In terms of the rankings here, I see him as a 4-star. I'm seeing 6'1", 285 for kind of the height and weight. I looked through the video a little bit today to refresh myself. In terms of where you think he'll be ranked by the end of everything, Jason, is this is this one of those super blue chips that, Kat, you and Ketch like to talk about, or is he just outside that territory? Where does he fall for you?
I don't know if he'd be a super blue chip, because then you're talking top 35-ish in the country. But, dude, I don't get his rankings. Like, I know Rivals has him. He's a 4-star, 5.8. He's not even in the Rivals 250. And I've talked to our Florida analyst about it. I said, dude, what am I missing? Because you watch his film. Mm-hmm. It's freaking fun, dude. I talk sometimes about Kalik Lockett and some of these guys. Like, hey, some guys' film is just fun to watch. Brandon Brown's film is just fun to watch, dude. He is wrecking shop. And in fact, the Florida analyst, the guy who has a direct impact in the rankings, a guy named John Garcia, awesome dude, does great work for Rivals. He said, a couple things. He plays at a private school, so the level of competition isn't elite. And he said he is a little bit maybe undersized by traditional standards. He's listed at 6'1". I haven't laid eyeballs on Brandon Brown yet, so I don't know, if that's spot on or maybe a little bit exaggerated. But he said, he's a little bit undersized compared to, what you really like to see when you're projecting guys for the NFL. You say that, and Texas has a guy that's about to go first round that, is a little bit undersized as a defensive lineman too, right? So Byron Murphy. But I will be surprised if his ranking doesn't go up, and if he doesn't finish somewhere in that Rivals 250-ish range, maybe push for Rivals 100, just because, man, maybe I'm not knowing what I'm looking for. But that dude, and John told me, he goes, hey, if you're looking for a guy who just creates havoc in the backfield, nobody's film does it as well as Brandon Brown. So I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I think he has a really strong chance to move up the rankings. But he's not a super blue chip right now, and he's quite a ways off from that ranking. I think he should be a lot closer than he is. So we'll see. Maybe if he goes to some of these events and keeps working out, and that one up in Dallas, and maybe people can get to see him there. I'd love to see him come to a Texas camp maybe this summer. Maybe if that happens in June, and we kind of get word or get video or whatever of him just dominating at some of those types of events. You know what? Hey, dude, go to a Rivals camp. I don't know when the Rivals camp would be in Florida, but it might have already happened. But, if he could show up at some of those types of events, Under Armour, so on and so forth, and just really dominate there, then I think people have to take notice.
And for you, is he a D tackle at the next level for sure?
Yeah, absolutely. He's athletic enough. I think he could play on the edge. I mean, seriously, the guy moves that well. But yeah, I think he's for sure an interior guy that, you can maybe slide him around. I don't know if he's a pure nose tackle, but maybe he's a 3-tech or something. But definitely a guy that can work in space. I don't think you'd probably put him on the edge. I think he's more of an interior guy.
All right, Jason, I've been waiting to ask this question because I know you've been covering it a while. Did you happen to notice what jersey number Brandon Brown wears in high school?
I did. No, no.
The highlights are from a little bit of a distance, so you have to be a nerd and look up the roster like I did. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
He wears 20.
Oh.
Do you ever remember a
No.
badass D tackle rocking 20?
No. You're starting to see more variation on these numbers. Kind of back when you and I were growing up,
Yeah.
your receivers are always in the 80s, right? I mean,
Right.
Now you're seeing guys kind of change things up a little bit. I'm trying to remember who it was. One of the big boys back in the day wore number 1. Was it Larry Dibbles maybe at Texas?
I think Dibbles did wear 1.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, yeah. Larry, you need big numbers on that big body.
It was a wide one, like it really wide. Right. It was like a NASCAR, like they painted a NASCAR, but it was there, yeah.
Yeah, a big block letter 1, exactly right. But no, I can't say I remember a defensive line or defensive tackle wearing 20 or anywhere in the 20s for that matter. That's I have not paid attention. I'll have to look at that next time I watch his huddle film.
As I was watching it today, I'm like, wait, is he wearing 20? And by the way, bravo to the Brandon Brown highlight committee. There's one play they sneak in there. It's kind of in the middle. You got to be paying attention. He lines up at running back, and then they just kind of just leak him out to the side and throw him a little touchdown pass from like 2 yards out. And he kind of gets the the Tavondre Sweat treatment, or I guess the Byron Murphy treatment.
Both of them, yeah.
Year, right, if you will. But yeah, trying to show off the hands a little bit. So he is really, really impressive. Jason, for you, as you mentioned the out-of-state thing and the challenge of it, because he's a Florida kid, and you just kind of laid the list out. Give me a danger school or two if I'm a Texas fan. I want this kid. He's badass. If it's not Texas, if he's not going hook 'em horns in December, what's he doing?
I thought it was interesting because nobody has reported yet. So a little bit of breaking news, the Florida visit, what he told me. I don't think that's been reported anywhere. If it has, maybe I've missed it. The Tennessee and USC visits have been known. If I'm picking one out of that group, I mean, Florida's always scary, right? They're the in-state school. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on USC. And I know that's clear across country, but obviously the kid doesn't have a problem leaving the state of Florida, or he wouldn't have committed to Texas sight unseen. He took it upon himself. It was shortly after Bo Davis left. He went out to USC. I think it was a multi-day unofficial visit. That was, I believe, maybe his first official visit he set up. So I think USC is going to give Texas something to think about, or something they're going to have to fight through. USC's suddenly recruiting very well in the 2025 recruiting cycle. So if I'm picking one, it would be easy to pick Florida, right? The in-state school, but I'm not sure. I think USC might be Texas's biggest threat, and Tennessee is another one I know he really likes, but I would probably pick USC as the biggest threat.
Gotcha. Okay. Before we move on to a couple other names, anything else you want to throw out on Brandon Brown?
No, just I wish I could have met him in person, but he was traveling with that team. I didn't get a chance to, so who knows? Maybe it'll give me an excuse to go to Palm Bay, Florida, at some point in the fall to go watch him play.
We've all got to go to Palm Bay at some point, right?
I'm not even sure where it is, but it's in Florida. It's called Palm Bay. It's got to be damn near a beach somewhere, right? So
there's got to be a palm tree or two, right?
Exactly,
yeah, let's check it out. By the way, thanks to everybody who's checking us out today and jumping in the chat. Money B with always letting us know that he's in the building.
Money B, I want to say,
yeah,
I think it was Money B. Money B, I almost gave you a shout out today. I think it was Money B that gave me grief because I went to the practice or last week, and I didn't. And there was all this talk about offensive lineman Trevor Gooseby, and I didn't get a picture of Gooseby. Mm-hmm. I think it was Money B. I hope this is right, but whoever it was, I made sure today, dude. That was my first picture. I got a picture of Trevor Gooseby, damn it, at practice this morning. So I think that might have been Money B that was in the chat doing it. Maybe I'm wrong, but somebody was giving me grief about not getting a Trevor Gooseby picture. Well, there's a Trevor Gooseby picture in my photo gallery today.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, Money B. Well
Absolutely.
played if that was you. Also, our man Cameron jumps in and says, Rogue in the building. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Let's throw up a little Rogue shop for you. Check them out if you haven't. There's your QR code. A little love for Rogue Shop, and love that logo. And Cameron apparently might be enjoying a little Rogue today. And there you go. Do that responsibly. Nothing wrong with that. We hope everybody's having a good one. Look at this, just as we talk about, and we need to talk about Money B more.
All
Super
right.
chat for 10. He said, that wasn't me, Jason, at this moment. Which wide receivers and DBs would be in the UT class?
All right, Money B, I wish I had my recruiting board pulled up. Let me pull up this offer list and we'll go through them. Dude, that's an impossible ask, but we'll talk about chances on some of them. So that wasn't Money B. My apologies, Money B. I can't remember the blue logo. It was something close to Money B, but I guess it was not Money B. Which receivers? Okay. Jamie French is a former Alabama commitment who's going to be in Austin a couple times, including an official visit. Don't have a great read on him, but he's taken 2 visits to Texas. So possibly Marcus Harris, the wide receiver out of Mater Dei in California. I've got my Texas future cast pick in, okay? There's going to be a couple other schools in play there, but I think Marcus Harris has a strong shot to be in this class. I tell you a guy nobody's really talking about is Nunu Hines, Tanuke Hines. He goes by Nunu. He's out of Decaney down in the Houston area. This is a dude who's visited Texas a few times. He's an elite athlete. I mean, he's got legit track speed, legit track times. If Texas really pushes for Nunu Hines, I think Texas might be the team to beat. But receivers really tough this year, man, because there's so much there's so many guys in state and out of state that are elite players. It's kind of, we're still trying to figure out who's going to rise to the cream of the crop. Another guy, and this guy's running at Texas Relays this weekend, Kelshawn Johnson. I've got him predicted to be in the Texas class. He's a speedster out of Hitchcock, kind of a smaller school dude. I think it's Texas or Southern Cal. Keep an eye on Southern Cal, but I think Kelshawn winds up staying closer to home and going to Texas. 3 in-state guys I'll just rattle off. Khalil Lockett, Andrew Marsh, Dalen McCutcheon. Texas is very much in the mix right there. I'm not sure I would call the Longhorns the leaders for any of them. Dalen McCutcheon really likes Florida State. Andrew Marsh, we'll talk about. Chad, he was at practice this week, UT's practice. We'll talk more about him. And Khalil Lockett's a guy that's visiting on April 6th. He's already got an official visit set up. So Texas is in a pretty good spot there, but I don't know that Texas is the leader. You know what? And I'm going to give you one more who I think is going to wind up being in this class. And I didn't think so a month or 2 ago, but after going to the Under Armour camp up in Dallas 3 weekends ago, or whenever that was, just some of the scuttlebutt I picked up, talking to different people, I'm still going with Doran Moore winding up in this class. Okay, I know he's committed to LSU. He's really happy with that LSU commitment, but I really think Texas has a chance. I think if they can win over Doran and his mom, and I should say continue to win over Doran and his mom, I think maybe staying closer to home, that Duncanville pipeline to Texas, maybe helps out a little bit there. So I'm going to go with Doran Moore in this class. There's a couple other guys, you know, Taz Williams, guys that Texas is recruiting. So those are my wide receiver predictions, Money. Let's go down to defensive backs. They've offered a ton of guys. This could take a while. So, you know, Dorian Brew is a guy that they really like. Caleb Chester, I could see winding up in this class. He's got an official visit set up. Cortland Guillory is a guy who likes Texas a lot, maybe favors Oklahoma a little bit, but he did visit Texas on Saturday, visited Texas on Saturday. I've been trying to hit him up, but I have not been able to get in touch with him. But Texas was right on Oklahoma's heels, and that was before he had never visited Texas previously. So I'm assuming that gap has probably been closed after that weekend last weekend. Cade Phillips is a cornerback that Texas offered that they really like. I've got Texas as the leader there. Kobe Sellers, I think it's going to be Texas or Oklahoma. I do favor Oklahoma a little bit there. If we move over to safety, you know, Jonah Williams, he likes Texas, but I just don't know that I can call Texas the leader there. Oklahoma is very much in play. Don't sleep on Oregon either for in that one. So, you know, I probably may have skipped over. There's a bunch of defensive back offers. I may have skipped over 1 or 2, but those are kind of quick hitters quick hitters, Money B, on some of the guys I think Texas is in a good spot with.
Money B, we appreciate that super chat. Also appreciate Derek. The reminder to everybody to smash that, not the like button. If you have a like button, you can try to find that, but the like button is probably what you want to do. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. If there's a like button, hit that one too. Just hit all the buttons you can find. That might help us as
Any
well.
button that gets me near a lake or to a lake, I will hit that button too. You bet.
That's it. Kevin says he thinks this team is going to be special in the first year or the fifth year of the SEC. Could be both, right? Because there's a lot of punching that's going on in the SEC.
You're copy editor for these questions this week, guys.
Yeah, it could be all of that. Jason, you mentioned Andrew Marsh.
Yeah.
So we'll get the update. We were talking about Brandon Brown, who had come in for to see Texas for the first time. How about Andrew Marsh? Now this is the guy who his first visit anywhere was a long time ago, right? This is a guy who makes lots of visits.
Tons and tons of visits. Yeah. And he showed up on campus on Monday, which he had told me, oh boy, not last weekend, but the weekend before. I was at the Under Armour camp down in Houston. He said, hey, I will be taking a Texas unofficial visit soon. Well, sure enough, he wound up popping in on Monday for practice. The same day, mind you, that KJ Lacy was there. Okay. So KJ, that's one of the guys he's been working on. So, as I look at my notes from Andrew, when I talked to him, he told me, hey, unofficial visits coming up. You talk about taking a lot. Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Southern Cal, Michigan, Oregon, Louisville, and Kentucky. Those are unofficial visits this spring.
Wow.
Official visits, he has locked in A&M, Oklahoma, Southern Cal, Michigan. So, and I could see Andrew taking certainly a fifth, maybe even more than five. He's a guy that might take more than 5 official visits. But he and I exchanged some messages. We kind of did an interview just via private message on Twitter. So it sounded like he had a great visit, man, to Austin on Monday. He really liked getting to see Coach Jackson and just kind of how detailed he is and just the way he coaches his guys up. Said he really enjoyed that experience of getting to see Coach Jackson work on the field. And he said, but he's still got that kind of personality though, that he still can relate to his guys. He's played at a high level. He's coached at a high level. Said he had good conversations with Sark. So Andrew's a tough guy to kind of pin down. If you're saying, okay, name 3 schools that might be standing out. I don't even know who I'd pick, honestly. I'd probably put A&M in that group, but I don't really know. I mean, they got a new coaching staff over there. What's their offense going to look like? A lot of things can affect that. But Andrew's a guy that certainly does a lot of homework. He and his mom are super close. I did ask him. I may have talked about this previously, but I said, hey, you're super close with your mom. That's well known. I said, does that help a school maybe like Texas or A&M or regional schools? And he said, no, my mom probably is going to, wherever I go, she'll probably try to move and be somewhat close. So, so I don't know that proximity is a huge factor for Andrew Marsh, but he did tell me that Texas visit on Monday went really well. He really liked getting to see the practice, the tempo, the precision with which they practice. So I think that helped Texas, but he's not planning on committing until November. So there's going to be a lot more visits and a lot of curves and twists and turns in the Andrew Marsh recruitment.
It is so cool that these kids are coming in and watching practice. Also, I like that comment on the mom. Is proximity going to matter to mom? No, mom will change the proximity if need be. Right?
And I answered my own question when I asked him that, Chad. I go, hey, I said, you're real close to his mom. And I've met his mom. She's an awesome woman. I've met her a couple times. I said, you're real close to your mom. I said, does she want you staying closer at home? And I go, what am I saying? Every mom wants to closer to home. But I said, how does she feel about this? And that's when he said, he goes, if I go somewhere out of state, he goes, she'll probably try to transfer and, move closer to me. And I said, does she have that kind of job? I don't know what she does exactly, but where she could transfer. And he said, yeah, she probably does. So, proximity never hurts, but I don't know that it's a huge deal in the case of Andrew Marsh.
Yeah, interesting. So when you hear about that Andrew Marsh unofficial visit to whatever school, don't freak out because there's plenty of them that are all lined up. We'll take a breath. We'll talk about the guy that was also watching practice, get a little update on KJ Lacy. First, let's get you a little bit from Specs. They sponsored the chat and have for a while now. Remember, they can get you all stocked up for the tournament or whatever you got going on.
You're needing. Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers, to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Somebody hit us up in the chat today, said they're going to go to Specs, get some Deep Eddy vodka, and then hide the Deep Eddy vodka for their wife for Easter. It's a weird tradition, but whatever you do, right? Hiding vodka for each other in the yard. I'd go searching for that if my wife was hiding vodka somewhere in the yard. I'll do that one for Easter. I hope everybody has a great Easter weekend, and thanks to Specs for their support. So, Jason, we've been talking about, this modern era of recruiting where I'm Andrew Marsh. I get the benefit of going to watch practice like you're just talking about. Hey, receiver coach for Texas. He's been there a couple years. How does he coach? How does Sark coach? What happens when a guy drops a ball? Who gets yelled at and how loud and all that stuff? What does Arch Manning look like? That's a guy that's going to, if I'm coming to Texas, this guy knows, he knows kind of the score of that. Probably not going to be catching passes from Quinn Ewers. It's going to be Arch Manning, but also to have KJ Lacy there. That is an interesting extra layer I wouldn't have thought of. So with Marsh, he's undecided, but now he is seeing a quarterback commit standing right there watching practice. I don't know if they were right together, but they're there. I'm wondering how much of an effect that could have had. Talk about KJ and kind of how he dealt with Monday.
Yeah, and I haven't talked to KJ since his visit on Monday because I had just spoken with him on Sunday, and he's coming back on April 6th, so we'll talk to him then, and April 20th, an official visit. But, I know KJ was very excited to get out to that practice and, he said, see the coaches, see the team, the players and the other quarterbacks. He goes, I'm just kind of anxious to kind of connect with those other quarterbacks and sit in that quarterback room. And I should mention Brandon Brown and Marsh, both those guys before practice or after practice sat in the positional meetings. So,
wow.
Andrew, they both told me that. Andrew Marsh said, hey, man, it was really cool to kind of sit in meetings and just, see how that wide receiver room operates. Brandon Brown said he actually sat down with Kenny Baker and they went through his film, and Kenny Baker's like, here's what you do well. Here's what you don't do so well, dude. Here's things you need to work on. And here's how I can make you better. But with KJ Lacy, especially at quarterback, they love to have those guys sit in those positional meeting rooms. They can just kind of watch, the X's and O and the mental part of it, not just, the on the field stuff everybody gets to see, but the mental part of the quarterback position. I'm sure KJ Lacy spent a lot of time in positional meetings, but KJ's a guy that's he's pretty active in recruiting. If you ask him, and I did ask him, or we asked, hey, who are you recruiting? He rattled off 8 or 9 different receivers that he's recruiting to try to get to come to Texas. And KJ's super personable, right? He's a really just a fun kid to talk to, and I think having him there with Andrew Marsh is probably a pretty good selling point for Texas because all these schools Andrew's going to look at, Michigan and USC and Texas and Texas A&M, they're all going to have probably pretty good quarterback play. But hey, you're there with KJ Lacy. That could be a guy that you're playing with for 3, 4, who knows, 5 years. You're getting to play in Sark's offense. Look what Sark can develop with quarterbacks. KJ Lacy's a tremendous prospect. Hey, look how he can develop KJ Lacy. You can be a big part of that. So I think getting those two on campus together, I don't think it was something that was necessarily planned out and staged that way. It just so happened to be that Andrew wanted to visit the same day that KJ was in town. But yeah, I do think that was probably a nice development for the Longhorns to get those guys on campus together.
Yeah, because he could literally be staring at in practice the next guy he catches a ball from, and then after that, it very well could be KJ Lacy. So could be both of those guys kind of at the same time. We talked about obviously Lacy the other day. You mentioned the visits that he's got coming up. Anything else on Lacy that's new today?
Nothing new from this weekend. The biggest news that come out of last weekend, like I said, he came in and competed at the Elite 11 regional camp down at Westlake. He got the Elite 11 finals invitation, so that was big. But the biggest news to me is the fact that, as I mentioned, he visited on Monday. He's visiting April 6th, the day that Texas is kind of trying to bring in a bunch of recruits, right? Then he's coming back for the orange-white game. Then he's got his official visit scheduled in June. He has no other visits scheduled right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was kind of a wow moment. I was like, okay, this is a guy who takes a lot of visits. He's been to Auburn. He's been to Alabama a bunch, Ole Miss. He almost visited there. He almost visited Miami at one point. This is a guy who takes a lot of other visits despite his commitment. But the fact that he doesn't have anything scheduled tells me he's not really in these deep conversations with these other coaches. Now, will he take other visits at some point? Yeah, probably so. KJ likes to show up at, good college football games with good fan environments and things. So he might show up at a game or two in the fall. But right now, it seems like Texas is really the only thing on his mind. So to me, that was a pretty big comment for him to hear him say, no, I don't have any other visits planned right now, only to Texas, and I have 4 of them to Texas.
Wow. Yeah, that's big news for a Texas fan. So let me make sure I'm paying attention here, Jason. If a Texas fan hears that Andrew Marsh has set up an unofficial visit, don't freak out. If they hear that KJ Lacy has set up an additional official visit, don't freak out, but definitely pay attention.
For sure, an official visit. If KJ sets up an official visit, I would even say you could freak out a little bit over an official visit, okay? But if he just shows up at a game on a Saturday when it's whatever, Auburn and Georgia, I don't know what Auburn's schedule is, but if he just goes, hey, you know what, that's going to be a good game, I want to go see that one, then don't freak out over that. And he even said, he goes, hey, now that Texas is in the SEC, he might try to go see some Texas road games if they're closer to him. So who knows, maybe he shows up at a Texas road game. I don't know how you do that. How do you call whatever and like, hey, Vanderbilt, can I get a ticket to come watch Texas? You guys played Texas. It's kind of like when he told me he went to the Iron Bowl last year, which was at Auburn. And I said, what did you wear? Dude, you can't show up wearing a Longhorn shirt. Or was that in Tuscaloosa? I think that was in Alabama. Because he said that they told him, like, dude, if you show up wearing Texas gear, we're going to give you Alabama gear to wear, Auburn, whatever the home team was. So he said, I just wore like a white shirt and like cream colored shorts. I was like, yeah, well played. So, but yeah, I would not freak out if KJ shows up for unofficial visits, especially just for games environments. But if he schedules an official visit to a place like Auburn or Ole Miss, Oregon, one of those type places, yeah, that's certainly something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think they broke their heart at Auburn, didn't they?
Was it at Auburn? Okay, you know what? That's what I was thinking, because I remember watching that game and I thought it was at Auburn, but he said I'm pretty sure he told me they said they were giving him Alabama gear to wear. Maybe he mistakenly said Alabama instead of Auburn. I'm not sure, but regardless, he was at that game and he was dressed in very neutral colors. No Texas colors, no Auburn colors, no Alabama colors.
Yeah, that's a serious enough game, Jason. I don't know if I'd tell him to pick a side anyway, but certainly don't show up rocking burnt orange to that one. I don't know if that would be a smart idea at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. In fact, it was like, don't even wear like a bracelet or he had a necklace with a Longhorn pendant. Like, dude, put all that stuff away for that day.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And it was at Auburn. I was right. It was at Auburn, the game there, because that was I could just see that Jordan Hare crowd ready to explode, and then it was
that was a wild game. Yeah, for sure.
It all just kind of fell apart. Before there's somebody has a good general question in the chat, but before that, Jason, did you get I know you mentioned Doran Moore's name at some point, but did you get the note out you wanted to on Doran? I know you wanted to mention him real quick.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I talked to Doran a couple weeks ago. Of course, he is scheduled to be at Texas for the orange-white game, but he's going to be in Austin this weekend for Texas relays. There's a couple other guys, including Kelshawn Johnson, who's another receiver I mentioned earlier from Hitchcock that I have predicted to land in this class. So Doran will be on the 40 acres. He'll be competing. He's in the long jump. Let me get this right. Friday night long jump. And then Saturday morning in the 4x1 for Duncanville. So he'll be on campus. He'll be a stone's throw away from the football offices. That's never a bad thing. We'll see if he finds a way to make his way over to the football offices for a quick chat. We'll certainly check with him on that. I plan on being out there at Texas Relays this weekend. So hopefully I'll have some more from Doran, but obviously still committed to LSU. He is planning on taking several other official visits, including one to Texas. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that one.
And his official visit's going to be in that June area?
It's in June. I don't think he has a firm date locked in yet. He just said, hey, these are the schools I want to visit. Of course, Texas. It's 4 of them, and Texas was one of the 4.
Gotcha. Okay. One more before we wrap it up. Somebody's just asking in general about recruits in the class. The old number was 25. Does that still exist, or is it different now?
Yeah, it's no longer a firm number at 25. And Dale, I wish I had an answer, dude, but that's with the portal and everything else. Like, I don't even think the coaches could even answer that question right now because, there's so many variables that go into that. Obviously, which guys want to come on board. If you have if you're at 25 and Doran Moore and some other kid says, hey, I think I want to flip it the last minute. All right, we're going to go up to 27, 28. But it also depends on portal numbers. You've got to have some guys usually leave, transfer out to kind of open up some spots. But my guess, Dale, I always say, hey, it'll be pretty close to a full class. It always is. It's usually within, 23 to 27, kind of in that ballpark range. So I think they're going to have some guys leave via the portal to open up some spots, but I would say probably in that 22 to 25 range.
There you go. Dale, we appreciate the chat. Jason, anything else we need to hit here on a Wednesday?
Nope. I see our compadre Sunny checking in from Canada, of all places. Sunny saying she loves the orange blood shirt. Sunny, I have had this shirt for probably over 15 years, and sadly, I had to buy it myself. I've got a few orange bloods. We had a deal way back when with Under Armour, and Rivals like, hey, you guys can get Under Armour sponsored gear, but you had to pay. But it was discounted, so I bought a boatload of them, and I got one or two that don't have holes in them still. So appreciate the shout out, Sonny, all the way from Canada. Now, Chad, I think we've got most things covered for this week. Should be Texas Relays is always a fun event to cover. There's not a huge recruiting pool this year. Sometimes I go down there and there's 15 guys interview. Sometimes there's 2 or 3. This year, unfortunately, it's only a few of them. But Doran Moore, you know what? Hey, if I get one interview and it's Doran Moore, I'll consider it a successful weekend. So I'll be down there this weekend to watch those guys compete at the Texas Relays.
Very cool. And we always remind you to head over to orangebloods.com for a lot of reasons. Jason's photo gallery is up from practice today. You got Anwar's notes from practice, Alex's breakdown of practice. Tomorrow night will be War Room night on a Thursday. Also, the coverage of the other Longhorn teams rolling right now. If you missed it, Texas women are taking on Gonzaga on Friday night. It's going to be a late tip. 9 o'clock ESPN is the schedule, and they're playing Gonzaga in Portland. So it's going to feel like a bit of a road game. That's like 300 miles for the Gonzaga fans, and well, more than that, obviously, for Texas fans. Vic Schaefer is going to go in there with a little chip on the shoulder because it's going to feel like a home game maybe for the Zags. That is Friday night. Baseball got double bad news yesterday. A&M Corpus Christi beat them, and the announcement was made Tanner Witt is going to be out for a little bit with an injury. So the baseball team licking some wounds. They're headed to K-State this week for the Easter schedule, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to give them Easter Sunday off. All that coverage is at orangebloods.com. Zach with the, maybe not the news you want, but it's the truth about the baseball team on that side of things. And we got you covered on all the other stuff too. Orangebloods.com. Check it out. There's your QR code if you want to jump in. Also, just on the football side, I saw a mock draft today, Jason, that has the Longhorns having 3 guys drafted in the first round, 2 in the second, 3 in the third, and then Whittington sliding in the 7th.
Wow. Who are the 3 first rounders? I'm guessing both receivers and Byron Murphy.
Correct. Murphy, Mitchell, and Worthy in the first, Sweat and Brooks in the second.
Oh.
Sanders slipping to the third after what just happened at Pro Day, and then Jalen Ford and Christian Jones also in the third round.
Okay.
And
that'd be, hey, if Jalen Ford and Christian Jones go third round, that's to me that's a huge win for those guys. So that'd be good.
And I looked it up today. Texas has never had 3 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 thirds. That's never happened. They've never had multiple guys go in multiple rounds like that.
Yeah.
They've had a couple
times are changing, dude. It's been a long time coming. I remember watching drafts where nobody got drafted, not too distant past. So it's the draft will be fun to watch again.
Yeah, Longhorn fans, if you see multiple guys go in 3 different rounds, that is something that's just never happened. There were 2 firsts and 2 seconds in 2007. 2 seconds and 2 thirds in 2010, but that's kind of the most recent version of that.
Yeah, we're going back 15 plus years on those.
Yeah, this would be a historic draft. It looks like it's going to be for Texas. That's the latest mock that I saw today. All right, Jason, always appreciate your good work. We'll let you get back to your day. We'll let everybody else get back to it as well. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting those notifications. And if there's a like button wherever you are, hit that like button too. Couldn't hurt, right? We got to get the lake levels up as well. Thanks to 400 folks or so that are in the Specs chat as we wrap it up. Remember, we've got the Outsiders for you tonight at 8:30. How did Chance Mock deal with it when receivers started dropping balls at practice, especially young receivers? What did he do? We'll talk to him about that tonight, get some other thoughts on the NFL's new rules and other Texas football stuff. We'll have a good time tonight at 8:30 on The Outsiders, so check us out there. Until next Monday for the next recruiting hour, Catch, get to feeling better soon. We know you'll whip that flu. Volleyball clap for Catch whipping the flu. Let's get it done, Catch. Everybody take care out there, and don't get the flu. We are Orange Bloods Live.